So welcome to our first discussion called Food Revolution. We're going to meet every week from the Farm to School program to talk about different issues related to climate change, social justice, our food system, sustainable agriculture, regenerative agriculture, and really learning about how all of these different topics intersect and impact each other, and health and public health. And so thanks for everybody for joining. This is our first session, and we're working out kinks with technical difficulties and things about Google Meets. Next time we might probably meet on Zoom just so that our outside guests can join more easily. So we thank you guys for bearing with us. I have a few slides just to kind of give us some definitions and some kind of to help us frame the discussion. But I really do encourage, especially for students who are here, our brave one student, we really do encourage you guys to participate, ask questions, because I'm definitely not pretending to be an expert or to have all of the answers. I think that I just encourage everybody to view this as a discussion. So that said, let's see. I'm going to show you guys. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to bring up my PDF. Let's see. And where'd it go? I had it and I lost it. So joining us today, we have Tessa. Thank you for joining. You made it in. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Tessa. I live in Ventura, and I believe I was invited on because I have worked at FoodShare, the Ventura County Food Bank, for the past year, and I actually recently just quit for a different job, but was working with them right when COVID hit, and so it was a wild year as a team. I have a background in city planning and food and ag policy, and so that's kind of the direction that I've pivoted more into state agricultural policy. So I'm happy to talk about hunger, sustainable ag, food systems, all of it.
Wonderful.
I like a holistic perspective, just like you kind of described. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, wonderful. We're glad to have you. So I'm going to show them. So I'm going to show you guys my screen just to get started. Can you guys see my screen? Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of like, what is this all about, right? So we're exploring interconnected topics and how they relate. So how does the way, for example, that food is grown impact our access to that same food and our health? That's just one question. There are many. But what the ground rules for our group, and I'll say this every week, especially when we have students involved, a lot of these issues can be kind of controversial or political. And that's okay. But I'm just going to always encourage everyone to respect each other, to respect our different opinions, and just know that this is like a place for us to learn and discuss, and learning together how we can get involved and pursue these issues that people are interested in. So like I said, this week we're talking about food insecurity, and who is trying to join. Her name is Betsy Storm, and if she does come in, please let me know. I know she's trying. So Betsy is a volunteer coordinator at Food Forward, and we're going to talk about that organization today. It's a really, really great, wonderful organization. I think the work they do is so incredible. And then Tessa, who, like she said, she used to work at FoodShare during a crazy time to work for a food bank during the global pandemic. I think she's, definitely has incredible experience from her time there to share with us. And just for our students, so food insecurity, when I was growing up, I feel like the word was called hunger, world hunger and things like that. And I think that has changed just because to show that it's not always about people who are necessarily hungry, but who are struggling to get regular access to food. And that could be for a number of reasons, but it's usually due to financial constraints. And these are reasons why this is important. So particularly children who are exposed to food insecurity that affects their health, it affects their behavior, it affects how they're doing in school. It kind of really affects the trajectory for the rest of their life. And I think in a school system, this is why we're so concerned with feeding our students and why our school meal programs are so important. And so you'll see that, even when schools went, distant this past year, I mean, the food service did not stop. They still continued to serve families every single day and week. And just kind of talking about what that issue looks like in our community. And so this is this really great, there's on the Ventura County Public Health for our students. They have a great resource called healthmattersinvc.org. It's their website. And they compile all of this data and information about health issues in our county. And so they estimate that 16% of the children in our county are likely are food insecure, but they're ineligible for assistance. So that means that they don't necessarily qualify for some of the programs that exist to provide food assistance for families, but at the same time, they're still food insecure. So their families are still having a hard time getting them meals, which, so when you think about it, that's actually a quite large number of people who are food insecure and not getting financial assistance from the government, basically. And then in Oxnard, so from the same website, they will tell you how many people in Ventura County are food insecure. And it's something like 60, I meant to have the number up there, but it's 60 something thousand people in the whole county, and 74% of those people are located in Oxnard. So you'll find that most of our resources as a county are driven towards our community here in Oxnard. And then when they look at this little piece shows the food insecurity rate in Ventura County is 8.2%. Which is actually a bit lower than the state average in California, but it's still a lot of people. So what do you guys think so far? I'm gonna take a break from my slides.
Well, that number, that 8%, I think a lot of government and sort of official data is skewed, especially when we're looking at Oxnard, because there's a large undocumented population, or not transient, but just population that comes in and out seasonally. And so it may be much higher than, the numbers even show.
Yeah.
I feel that food security number too, that you showed, is so important, where they're not eligible for government funds, but still need support, still aren't getting enough food.
So is that the population that is really relying upon someone like FoodShare to help them? Because FoodShare is, a food bank that gives just regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that's definitely, we're open to everyone. We don't require means testing, which is what the government programs require you to demonstrate your income so that they know if you're above their threshold or below it. And so we don't require that. So anybody who feels like they need additional assistance or any assistance at all can come through. And I think it's important because it reduces that barrier. So maybe there's people who would qualify for government assistance, but don't have the means to do the paperwork or to keep up on it, or don't feel comfortable talking with, public agencies, that sort of thing. So then.
Yeah. And Betsy's here. Hi, Betsy. She made it.
Hi.
Thank you for trying. Thank you for persevering. So everybody, Betsy is from Food Forward. She's a volunteer coordinator, and we're really excited that you're here. I apologize for the challenges.
That's okay.
But thank you. Thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely.
So we just, who we have with us is we have some teachers, we have some students. We have Tessa. She used to work at FoodShare, which is our food bank in Ventura County. So I work with the Farm to School program in Oxnard Union High School District. Who else is here? Ali Villegas. She's our nutrition educator with the Farm to School program. Anna Litz. She's our school garden manager with the Farm to School program. And just people interested in the food revolution. So anyway, thanks for coming.
Amazing. Nice to meet everyone.
Yeah. So we just kind of started to talk about what food insecurity is and what that looks like in our community. And so we were looking at the numbers, and we were also just kind of talking about the percentage of children specifically who are food insecure, but their families aren't eligible for assistance, and how that kind of population, it's 16% of our population in Ventura County. It's quite a large number of people, and so they're often looking for food in places like food banks or the services that Food Forward provides. So that's what we were talking about first. And I put together, this isn't meant to be a lecture, but I wanted to just kind of guide our conversation. So I put together slides, and the next slide is a food desert. Can you guys see this? Picture of a beautiful desert. Okay. So especially for our students, because sometimes this whole topic has become so kind of, jargony when you hear the word like, what's a food desert? And I kind of think this is one of the more interesting questions that we discuss, because I feel like a lot of people might say that Oxnard is a food desert. And I'm not really, anyway, and I'm just kind of interested in what other people think. But USDA, the Department of Food and Agriculture, they define a food desert as an area that has either a poverty rate greater than or equal to 20%, where 33% of people live more than 1 mile away from the nearest grocery store. And so in general, kind of when you hear people talking about food deserts, it's areas where people have limited access to a variety of healthful food. And I guess that's interesting for us, because we don't really, anyways, if you drive around Oxnard, I don't really feel like you're ever that far away from a grocery store. And we are literally a farm community where we're growing food. So I guess kind of the question is, do other people think that we live in a food desert?
I don't, just
Okay.
because of what you said. I think that a food desert, when I picture a food desert, I picture it more like inner city area where people don't have orange trees and strawberry plants. I mean, a lot of our students, even if they're not close to grocery stores, a lot of them have relatives or family members that are close enough that can bring them healthy food from the variety of different places. I mean, so many people work in agriculture in Oxnard. So it just seems like it's all over the place. Is there a farmer's market too? And
yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, there's the one, like there's a farmer's market in downtown Oxnard, and then I think there's usually one at the college. I don't know when that.
Yeah, I don't feel like we are lacking in healthy food. But I don't live in Oxnard, and so I don't know like if there are parts of Oxnard that it's difficult to get to a grocery store.
Well, probably, especially people who live kind of like in the more rural area. But that brings me to like the next term that people talk about, which is a newer one, and it's a food swamp. And so a food swamp is like an area that provides adequate access to healthful and affordable foods, but also an overabundance of less healthful food options. And so I think a lot of like public health experts are now kind of evaluating what is the impact of living in a food swamp, which is a really sad word. And I don't think anybody wants to associate that with the place that they live. I don't.
But don't you think any place in Oxnard, Ventura, I mean, we're all food swamps. I mean, if you've got Wendy's and McDonald's and Popeyes and all of those, I mean, they're everywhere.
And to that, I mean, I kind of agree. Like the only places I've ever been to that don't have a million unhealthy restaurants are really wealthy communities, like, I don't know, Beverly Hills or someplace. And so I don't know if other people agree or what you guys think. What do you guys think?
I kind of think we are a food swamp for sure. And that's unfortunate because I think it's convenience over quality.
I don't like that term, but it may be a more accurate description of Oxnard as a food swamp, because when I've talked to students about Oxnard being a food desert, the campus that comes up first to me is Rio Mesa. and Pacifica, because you cannot get to a grocery store within a mile.
That's true.
You would need to take.
Pacifica's close.
Or I'm sorry,
Rio Mesa.
Oxnard and Rio Mesa. Sorry. Oxnard and Rio Mesa. So
Yeah,
the closest thing to Oxnard is like Ventura Boulevard there. And I think there's a grocery outlet there now, but before it was just Dollar General and that sort of thing, or like CVS. And that's just not a, if we're going to talk about having access to healthy food, it's going to be pretty limited when you're like that.
Rio Mesa, there's really nothing around there but fields.
I see raised hands. Let's see. How do I call on you? Dina. Where did she go?
It's Danae. Also,
Danae.
I was going to mention that in places like Santa Barbara, like they do have like fast food, like you said, but instead of like Oxnard, they don't have drive-throughs, so they make it so that people have to get out of their cars to go and order the food. So I think that may like be another factor as well.
That's
it's more of a deterrent, I bet. So people think twice about going to fast food if they know they have to get out of their cars.
That's interesting. That's a good point.
I don't think I would. I mean, the whole reason I go to a fast food place is if I want the convenient.
Quick and easy.
Yeah.
Mr. Henchy wrote in the chat that the USDA map shows Eastern Oxnard as a food desert.
Okay, so that would be El Rio, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, where Rio Mesa kind of is, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he's saying no. He's saying no.
I'm gonna have to die. I'm actually in another meeting. I'm kind of monitoring you guys, but I'm kind of doing like the kids. I pulled up a slideshow that I do on food deserts, and because I know the map's in there, and I cannot believe I don't have the link to the USDA map there. But it's basically.
I can't believe that either.
I know. I'm like, because I always put the links there, but it's probably my other one. But yeah, it's showing south of the freeway, but east Oxnard. So it's like maybe, let's see. No, that's actually Oxnard Boulevard going up there. It's kind of crazy because it also lists the CV base as being food.
And that's kind of different, isn't it? But
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
But that's based on their definition.
Official definition.
Geez, I got 3 things going on here.
Not surprised.
I'm gonna creep again. I'm gonna go back to the other thing.
Okay. So I have a couple other just one other kind of interesting term which I wanted to share. So then I read about a food mirage. I really like this one. So it's an area where people live close to a grocery store offering healthy foods, but they can't afford those foods, which makes me think of Whole Foods.
Whole Foods?
Yeah. Because, I mean, although Whole Foods is always packed, it's always crowded. I mean, that parking lot is never empty. It's always full of people. So someone can afford to shop there, not me. But anyway, and I mean, we are, us on the farm to school team, we're big advocates of, you don't have to shop at Whole Foods to get healthy food. So we really just don't subscribe to that. That's just not, anyway, it's just a different brand of food. That's just, obviously it's much more expensive. And then just to clarify for our students too, between food banks and food pantries. So food banks is the big organization that safely stores and distributes millions of pounds of food. So that's FoodShare for us in Ventura County. And then the food pantry is the location where people can actually go to receive food from the food bank. And I did invite today because it's really amazing. We actually, that I know of, we have 2 pantries in our district. So I know these were started by teachers and students. So I know Oxnard High has a pantry, and I know Rio Mesa has, she calls it the caring closet, this teacher. But I think in the caring closet, she's focused more on collecting clothing donations and different household items that people need. But the Oxnard pantry is an actual pantry. And it's kind of, as Allie just mentioned, that's one of the schools that is pretty far from a grocery store. So it's kind of, it's kind of interesting that happened. So what I hope to kind of just dive into this discussion about is what are the solutions to food insecurity? These are pictures of students who have done different work with with food insecurity. These are our own Oxnard high school students who have worked with, you know, food drives and food pantries and distributing donations of food at different events. I wanted to then just kind of open this up to share more resources and learn how we can get involved today. And to start us off, especially because she's here, if Betsy wants to talk about Food Forward, I kind of just took some pieces of information from your website really quickly just to share some of the incredible work you all do, but I would love for you to share since you're here.
Sure, absolutely. Happy to share. Yeah, so I work with Food Forward, and we work primarily in LA and Ventura counties. So we actually glean from the farmers market in Oxnard at the harbor. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we do, but basically we're kind of at the intersection of food waste and food insecurity. So we're trying to kind of solve two problems at once. So I don't know if you talked about food waste at all. Okay, cool. So we, I guess, like, probably the statistic that gets thrown around the most is that about 40% of the food in the US gets wasted, which is pretty nuts. And so, you know, at Food Forward, we were started about 11 years ago, and I'm sure, as everyone's seen, SoCal has an enormous, you know, abundance of food here, just from leftover from the trees that used to be citrus groves here. We have, you know, plenty of farms. And so we are primarily focused on recovering surplus fruits and vegetables. And we do that in a couple of different ways, but we recover those fruits and vegetables, and then we connect them with local hunger relief agencies. And so we work with lots of different kinds of agencies, some like large food banks, like we just mentioned, and then there's also lots of different smaller programs, like mutual aid programs, maybe in a neighborhood, where folks are setting up maybe like a free fridge on a street corner. We work with after-school programs, with programs that serve folks who are transitioning out of homelessness, with folks focused on serving LGBTQ plus populations. And so we really get a chance to connect what would otherwise go to waste and make sure that gets to people who can eat it and can enjoy it. So yeah, we do that in a couple different ways. So the first way is through what we say backyard harvest. So I'm sure you've seen there's like 1 million leftover trees. So most people can't eat all of the fruit off of like 1 or 2 orange trees or lemon trees or grapefruit trees. And so they'll call us, and we'll send small teams of volunteers out to go and harvest that tree, which is really great. It takes like an hour and a half or so. And then all of that produce gets sent directly to the Hunger Relief Agency that day. And then we also glean from farmers markets. So we're at normally, like pre-pandemic, about 25 farmers markets around LA and Ventura counties. And so we'll send small teams of volunteers to the market. We will go around and drop off boxes to vendors who have surplus produce that they want to donate. So, you know, maybe it's not going to last until the next market. Maybe it has some like small cosmetic imperfections and people didn't want to buy it. So they'll donate that, and same thing happens. We'll get that to hunger relief agencies that day. And then the third way that we recover is kind of on the wholesale level. So we recover from the LA wholesale market in downtown LA. So this is food that's being like shipped in from all over the world in like really big pallets. And this is where all the food comes before it gets shipped to grocery stores, to restaurants. And so there's a lot of waste that happens there. Sometimes it's cosmetic imperfections. Sometimes it's, you know, somebody ordered wrong. Maybe there's like a ton of tomatoes that look perfect, but they're going to get a new shipment in and they have to get rid of them. And so they'll call us and let us know that they have produce, and we'll send some of our staff members to go and pick it up in a truck, and that goes, by the truckload to really big food banks like the LA Food Bank or lots of others.
You have a question. Mr. Henchy has a hand raised, but he might be still in his other meeting. Yeah, I definitely want the students to know, like, Food Forward is this huge organization. You guys rescue, I mean, how much food every week? Or do you even know? I mean, it's so much.
Yeah, for sure. So in 2020, we recovered over 60 million pounds of food, which is
And
pretty
all
nuts.
of that would have gone to a landfill, right? Pretty much, and gotten tilled under by farms. All of that would have gone to waste, but instead it fed people who were hungry. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's been around for over a decade, which I think is also huge for a nonprofit. And yeah, I think it's such a cool organization. I love, so someone from Food Forward came to one of our events a few years ago and told the students about the free farmers market that, I don't know if it still happens.
Yeah, see me at the garden.
Do you want to tell students about that or share about that?
Sure, yeah. It's a spot, I think they've been doing it every Tuesday. It used to be like twice a month. But now since the pandemic began, I'm not sure if they've gone back, but for a while it was every week. But basically, folks can come and pick up produce, and all of that produce is coming from the LA wholesale market. So it gets dropped off. There's a ton, and it's free. Folks can just come and pick it up, and it's really great produce. And yeah, it's been a really cool thing for the community. I know, some of our hunger relief agencies were reporting seeing up to 5 times the number of folks coming to their distributions, their food distributions during the pandemic, which is, a pretty significant increase. And so I know, places like See Me at the Garden, they've been upping their distribution schedules, and lots of other places have been doing that as well.
Yeah, it's, when this first happened, and for us who were just going to the grocery store, we were, freaking out because like the grocery store shelves were empty, right? And we couldn't get, flour and eggs and toilet paper. But for people who are already struggling to get food on the table, the impact that like shift in our system, like, had this tremendous effect on people who are food insecure. And then what we also saw was that so many farms didn't have a place to sell their crops because the restaurant industry was kind of like halted. And so anyway, there was a time there, at least, and it's probably still like that, where farms were scrambling just to find a place to sell their food or donate it so that they didn't waste it.
Definitely.
I know Tessa got involved in that too, back in the beginning. Do you guys want to talk at all about how you feel COVID kind of changed this whole issue from what it was like a year ago? Just the greater need, or kind of like shining a light on what's wrong with our food system in general? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can start, and then maybe Betsy could add more.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I hadn't heard the 5 times number. That's really amazing. I know that Feeding America, which is the network of food banks that we're a part of, was estimating that demand basically doubled over the course, like basically March to May, in that period of time. And so FoodShare feeds about 75,000 people per month. That's like individual people who come in and out of our pantries at any point throughout the week or month. And so, we weren't able to capture that increase by the numbers, but we were estimating that it was basically like 150,000 people per month for a window of time. And then it sort of dipped back down, but never leveled back out to where we were before. And it's because of the uncertainty. A lot of people lost their jobs. And I think that what was I even going to say? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously COVID had a really hard hit on the economy. So, and then, I mean, then people were sick and the job market was going in and out. And so even if people were working in a certain moment, it's like the need was still there. And the number I was going to try to remember was something like almost half of Americans can't even afford like a $400 accident or emergency. And so, you know, a week of work out is, or maybe you have a reduced shift, something along those lines, it can be detrimental. And so we definitely felt that and saw that. And I think because we do have such a large farm worker community, that was also another contributing factor, largely because they receive really low wages to start, but also because with the fluctuating market, many farmers either reduced their crews because they couldn't afford to harvest. And so there was less work in that realm, and just went up and down. I would say one really striking thing in like probably April, since we have the port in our county, I mean, we were receiving calls daily with like hundreds of pallets. So it sounds like kind of like the LA market is every day, I think. But we were hearing because of those like ruptures in the market, like you mentioned. So, I mean, there was more food than I think the Hunger Relief Network could even knew what to do with, even had the capacity to receive. So that was, I mean, yeah, such a difficult and painful kind of juxtaposition to see when people were going hungry. And I think it kind of ties back, this will just be the last thing, and then I'd love to turn it over to Betsy or whoever, but I think it goes back to the food mirage that we were talking about earlier, where even if we're surrounded by produce and whole foods and healthy food, you know, on the landscape, you can see that, or on a map, but it doesn't mean that it's actually getting back into the community. And I think largely people who work in agriculture, you know, way more than the majority, are not able to just take produce home at the end of the day. It's not really like that, because they're working for much larger corporations who are running a business. So I think that's just an important detail I wanted to add.
Very important. And I mean, there was, during the pandemic, there was this organization called Feed the Frontline. Am I saying it, Anna? Where's Anna at? Yeah. And I mean, their whole mission is just that, you know, here are the farm workers who are growing our food, being first responders, out there every day working through our fires and our weather events. And, you know, they're the ones who are also food insecure and can't afford they don't have access to food themselves. And, I mean, that's just not okay. I don't even have like a better word, like thing to say, but I mean, that just shouldn't be the case, you know? So here we are, you know?
Yeah, definitely. There was, I think, a really big glut of food at the beginning of the pandemic. And, you know, we started getting calls as well, just with people saying, I don't have anywhere to, you know, to sell this produce. Can you guys take it? And I think there was like a big article, maybe in the New York Times, that was kind of highlighting just food being left on farms because, you know, people couldn't pick it. They had nowhere to sell it. They didn't want to pay for people to pick it if they had nowhere to sell it. So it's, you know, I think it just created a really huge ripple effect. And yeah, and Danae, is that correct? I saw your chat about, you know, fast food costing less than healthy food. And that's so true. I think that's, you know, one of the reasons why we focus on produce, because it's so expensive. I mean, you know, it's much more cost effective to go and get a burger and fries than it is to go get ingredients to make a salad. And so I think, yeah, the pandemic has definitely shifted a lot of, you know, kind of the food supply chain. And it's also, I think, just made it feel really sad, right? Because you see all the effects of all the wasted food. I mean, not only are people hungry and not able to have the food that they want, but I think that you know, all of the effort that it takes to produce that food. Like let me see if I can pull up a stat here, but I know it looks like, so yeah, wasted food consumes 18% of our cropland, 21% of our fresh water, and costs our economy $218 billion every year. So it's, you know, it's wasting on so many different levels. And I think what's even crazier is that it's like a pretty solvable problem. So like only it only takes 1/3 of the food that's wasted in order to feed every single insecure person in the US, which, you know, to me is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. And it seems like we should not be wasting it. I think we're going to do like a whole topic on food waste because there's so much to it. And everything you're saying is totally right. So, yeah. Oh, what is she saying? I know a factor may be like culture, so maybe finding healthier alternatives to make certain dishes. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Definitely. And some definitions of food insecurity or food security actually mention having access to culturally appropriate foods. And so that's, you know, that's really important that people have food that they know what to do with. And so I think, you know, it's more complicated than just getting some food to someone. I think there's a lot more involved in that puzzle.
Yeah. I wanted to share, so I have one more thing to share. Because I want to get everybody's opinion about, because some of these, so I have slides, I can share my slides with anybody, but I wanted to kind of give information about Food Forward and FoodShare. So, I mean, especially for our students, they have an app where you can find locations of pantries, and they've been doing pop-up pantries during COVID this whole year, every Tuesday at Rio Mesa at 5:00 and every Wednesday at Oxnard College at 3:00. But there's this interesting organization, Los Angeles Food Policy Council, and they have a project called the Healthy Neighborhood Market Network. And basically the thought is, and so dealing with like the same issues that we've been talking about, which is food insecurity and access to healthy foods and the cost for people. And so, you know, people other than us have been talking about these issues for decades of, and the impact on the health of the community when there is this lack of access to healthier foods. But what they're noticing in certain communities is that there's a prevalence of these little markets, like a corner store or a convenience store or a liquor store even. But so what people or public health experts or city planners have come up with is that if we can change these markets, these little grocery stores, to make them healthier and have more appealing displays for their produce, and just to change what the stores look like, that people will change their eating choices. So basically, like when the corner store down the street has, bananas in it instead of Snicker bars, people are going to buy the bananas and peanuts or whatever it is, right? And so what they were showing with this project is that the profits, the stores were actually profiting more once they participated in this project, which I think is pretty great. So I don't know, what do you guys think about that? Or does that make sense? Do you think that's like a good solution to the issue of changing like the little liquor stores or like or convenience stores?
I think it would help. I think it would help. Logistically speaking, I wonder, I mean, we know that and this is maybe for the next discussion too, but like, I know that there's issues with like Vons not wanting to put a Vons in certain areas, which then will also give you the issue on certain companies wanting to deliver to that area, whether it's a Vons or a convenience store, right? I don't know how much that plays into it. We are in that weird, like, not weird, but unique situation where we have the produce growing across the street, but they can't buy it within 5 miles, right? So, it's the distribution. Is distribution the biggest issue? Is it the money that they'll make at the convenience store? I mean, I'm not sure.
Well, our big farms will tell you that they're sending all of their produce far away because it makes more money. And those are the big commercial farms, which is most of our farms in our community. But let's see. Mr. Henchy has a hand up again.
Yes, they do. This time I need it.
Okay.
I think last time I was like turning on the captions and I hit that instead. You know what? I thought it was like California law. Maybe it's just LA City, where convenience stores had to have a cooler with fresh food in it. Like it was already like they made them do that.
Well, what's interesting about this project is that like these are small family businesses, right? And they're not competitive with like a big grocery chain. And so this project has like, and I know that there's grant funding in California available for because I believe Ventura County has taken on this project as well, where they can go in and replace your cooler for your fruits and vegetables, and they can like modernize it and make it look nicer. So, I think, you know, and I think the issue has been, like Allie was saying, like, can they get the distributor to come into, you know, the middle of like an urban area to only bring them like 2 cases of apples versus like going to a big grocery store chain where they're going to sell like 50 cases of apple. Like, so it is kind of about that too.
Well, the Snickers guys have no trouble getting the Snickers. I said Snickers guys have no trouble bringing a case of Snickers in, right?
That's true.
The Coke has no problem doing their deliveries at the same time as our school buses are going home.
Yeah, that's true.
I think this could be a whole other topic, weeks and months worth of a topic. I just keep thinking and coming back to land access. And I think that one of the major problems we keep speaking to is like how large all of the farms are, and they're designed for that international export. And I think increasing our local smaller production, just like you guys are doing at the school district, I mean, that type of thing is so important to kind of connect those smaller, more community-based sales channels and distribution networks. So I don't know if we want to get into that right now. Maybe we can talk about it.
We can. I mean, that's why this is all connected, because I, mean, I agree. These things are all connected. Our student wants to go to city council. What are you going to tell them? I support that. Share with us. How can we help support you?
I was saying that maybe you could get like a group of students to bring it up to city council. Like in order to make action or change, that's like one way to do it, because I'm also part of Future Leaders of America. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but what we do is we bring up like our current topic is flavored tobacco products and trying to find ways that it doesn't target youth as much. And what we've been doing is bringing it up to city council.
That's incredible. That's a really huge battle, and I'm really proud of you guys. Yeah, those products shouldn't even exist. Like the bubblegum flavors and candy color. Yeah, those shouldn't even. Are they outlawed, I wonder? And like, because the city can say that those don't have to be sold in stores. Like they're not. Anyway.
In the city of Port Hueneme, recently we passed a TRL, which is a tobacco retail license. So that way, like it's another process that the stores have to go through. As well as on the beach, we passed no smoking like ordinance, and right now we're working more towards like creating more laws or ordinances like that.
That's incredible. You should be super proud. That's incredible.
I feel like there's a very parallel campaign that could happen against unhealthy food. Like tobacco was just made totally taboo, you know, within the past couple decades, and like Coke could be the next target.
A lot of cities have, right? The sugar tax, and I mean that could be a whole other weekly topic. I've definitely talked to classes about that before. Well, so I guess since we have our two guest speakers here, I mean, what should the students do? What do you guys recommend they do if they want to get involved? And And maybe it's taking on city council and being brave, or maybe it's volunteering with FoodShare. I mean, what do you guys think? And do you guys think that there's, because I'd also love to teach our students about academics, like higher education opportunities, if these are topics that are interesting for them. So do you guys want to share, like, what do you think are educational paths also that are related?
Do you want to go, Betsy, or do you want me to start?
You can start.
Okay. Well, I think, I mean, if you're not already gardening at the high school, I think there's other opportunities too, like the Community Roots Garden in Oxnard would be a great place to kind of plug into the community and meet other people who care about healthy food, local, like in your community. I think policy is really important. That's sort of how I'm oriented. So I totally think talking to your city council, talking to your representatives, looking into who your representatives are in Congress and following those issues. There's a lot of good state level sustainable agriculture and equitable food systems policy that's happening right now. So often we don't think about our state representatives, but there's a whole nother set of politicians at the California state level that we should be talking to and being involved with. And then, yeah, volunteering, of course. Yeah, it's an obvious plug.
Yeah, I think there's so many things and so many different kind of areas and levels to plug in. So, yeah, I mean, we've had some folks who have just started a food distribution in their neighborhoods with whatever food they have left over. We have a team that specifically works with our hunger relief agencies and can get produce to folks. So you can do that. There's lots of ways to volunteer with a ton of different organizations at smaller food banks or food pantries, giving food out. I mean, I would say just explore and kind of see what kind of options are available in your community, and maybe where excess food might be happening, and how you can kind of get some info and understanding about why that's happening, and kind of where that might be able to be connected to.
Awesome. Let's see, questions about gardens. You guys are in the right place. We have gardens at Pacifica and at Oxnard High. Mr. Henchy, the Oxnard Garden Club has been active this whole time, socially distant with masks. They're growing cabbage, I think, at the moment.
Really? It's like really low level cabbage. I drive by there every day now. It looks pretty abandoned. Like there's there's no broccoli or cauliflower or kale or stuff that keeps sticking up out of there,
I mean, it's true that
Get over there, Henchy. Get on in there.
We are,
cabbage,
if somebody
lettuce,
reply to my email,
broccoli,
I could start
Brussels.
planning. Yeah, we're doing it. We're me and another teacher are going to be working on it. So,
okay.
While we're there, because we're going to be teaching there. So,
very good.
I just
growing seeds.
I just sent in the group chat to my email. If Mia and Danae, if you want to email me, I can connect you with the teachers who we work with at those schools. I don't know if I have room on my schedule because I take you definitely reach out. No worries. But during the school year, what we'll do is have different garden days where you can come and volunteer in the garden, or we work with certain classes where we bring them out to do things. Actually, our CI and Pacifica Garden specifically are quite a bit of land. And they're in areas that we've been able to till the dirt out and kind of get things going. So once the school year starts too, we'll be reaching out to teachers. But if you're in a club and you want to bring them there for a volunteer activity, you can do that as well. You can always reach out to any of us at Farm to School and we'll help set you up with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes.
Does anyone have other questions? comments, suggestions for like another topic for food revolution? It's a good idea for the summer. Sure, the gardens are always there.
Oh, Mia, are you taking it with Mr. Brister or Mr. Dawson for environmental science? Oh, yay. Okay, yeah, we're working right now on collaborating on a greenhouse project using recycled water bottles, and then also with doing a planting project. So I might be seeing you soon in your class.
A prize for students who join the meet. That we can, prizes can be plants or vegetables. Well, thank you, everybody. Oh, that's your suggestion. A prize for students that join the
Awesome.
meet. Okay. It's a good suggestion. Well, thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
If there's nothing else to add, I mean, this is definitely like an ongoing conversation, and we hope to see everybody again. And I will probably might do this on Zoom so that other people can join us here. Thank you, Betsy, and thank you, Tessa, for joining. We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Henty.
And
Thank you.
our next Food Revolution talk will be on March 18th, and we'll be talking about pollinators. So
Pollinators.
please join us.
Oh yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.